Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Chicago comedian extraordinaire. You know him, one of the hosts of Wait, Don't Tell Me. Adam Burke, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, we've got Adam Burke on the show. We've been talking about you for a while, buddy.
Yeah, sorry. It's been a busy couple of weeks.
We're thrilled to have you on, man. We've been talking about having you on for quite a while. So it's awesome to finally talk to you and meet you. So let's get going here. So he mentioned Wait, Don't Tell Me, right? So like we cover the news. In fact, we're going to do a headline show after we're done with this for our pod that we usually throw up on Fridays. And man, it can be exhausting just, dealing with the news day in, day out. Obviously on Wait, you have to kind of stay abreast of current events. Man, do you get tired of it? Do you want to throw things at the wall like me? Or do you how are you coping with all of this, Adam?
Wait's a bit different because Wait kind of went a bit. I think we used to be a bit more. I don't know if we were more political, but we sort of got into the politics stuff a bit more in the past. But now it's almost like there's so much to cover that I think on Wait, they've almost gone. We'll cover a couple of the big political stories, but most of it is more sort of like whimsical kind of slice of life stuff now, just because I think people are, just overwhelmed and inundated, and by the time, because we tape on Thursdays and it goes out on Saturday. So by the time we get to it, it's been chewed over. So I wouldn't say we've changed it like completely, but we have sort of adapted slightly to what's very.
You have to, especially. I mean, I think the big thing you said is the time, right? The time between recording and release. I mean, there's just no point in that. We let this show out on Fridays for the non-Patreon feed, but like, as soon as we're done recording, I have to post this like right away. Like, I get anxiety if we don't post things right away.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Yeah, it is sort of. I do think it's kind of good because a lot of people have sort of developed coping mechanisms now, and sort of people have. I mean, the notion that I think there's a very short arc between, sort of everyone having a smartphone, and then I think kind of people realize within 10 years, people have sort of realized how unhealthy it is for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And how the fact that we developed the phrase doom scrolling pretty quickly.
You got a bit of a smarter audience over there too, right? So you probably have people a little more cognizant of that.
Yeah, I will say one thing is kind of surprising about Wait, is it sort of like kind of runs a wider gamut than you think sometimes. But yeah, I do think as far as Wait goes, I think part of their stock and trade is like doing sort of they do a lot of science stories and all the rest of it, and the sort of kind of funny, like this is where we are as a society kind of stories, and not just like this is what so and so did to so and so, you know what I mean? Because that can get a little. But yeah, I don't know. It is kind of, it's weird now because I do try to like. I don't know how many you have. I have like 6 news apps on my phone. And they kind of like, the one that's maybe probably the outlier is Fox News, but like Fox News is just funny because when they won't cover something, like, you know what I mean? It's so funny when there's something like really egregious and they just act like it didn't happen. That's funny.
Right. Just ignore it. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, CNN definitely did that during the Biden time sometimes too, but it's kind of weird that it's like the ones you keep going back to. A lot of times I kind of keep going back to AP because AP is pretty great because it's like it's not really behind a paywall. It's sort of very dry. It's kind of a just the fact man kind of thing. And it is funny that that's become. I mean, the fact that the AP has become demonized is sort of.
Well, they wouldn't update their style book to the Gulf of America, Adam. We can't have that, Like...
Listen, man, my day job, like I'm an editor and a copy editor. I was that for many, many years before the robots took it over. and it's the AP style the AP has been pissing people off for years. Uh, with
because
because
of their style
they
look.
yeah, because they don't do the serial comma.
Ah, yes, the serial
Yeah.
comma. It always comes back to the serial comma.
And there's other things they don't do, but yeah. But I mean, I love the AP style. I mean, I love a style book. That's the nerdiest thing I've ever said, but it's great.
It's very tempting to nerd into. I understand.
Yeah, we get a lot of headlines from AP. I like AP, and it is one of the last that's not behind a paywall. I mean, Reuters is behind a paywall. BBC, I think, is behind a paywall now. Like, I get a lot of headlines from BBC, and I go there and it says you have to, like, subscribe or whatever. Which is BBC never used to be like that. I don't know when that happened.
That was a real bummer, and I'm not exactly sure what happened there. Because BBC, BBC used to be this really sort of bastion of like, they were kind of like the last guard against this stuff. You know what I mean? And it's like, I always say this about the BBC. I always point to this, but because there are lots of people who say, well, they're biased one way or the other. But I always think of the BBC normally, like, because they are a government-owned entity, so when they have stuff like complaints, they have to be very open about it.
Right.
And they recently they did a survey about their coverage of the Israeli Hamas conflict, and it was, I can't remember the exact number, but it was something like 48% of people thought that they were biased towards Israel, and 47% thought they were biased towards the Palestinians. And
well, that seems like you're hitting it.
You nailed it.
I think you're doing a pretty good job there. If you piss both people off equally, because that's the thing too. It's sort of like trying to explain editorial standards to people nowadays is fascinating. It's like the BBC. The British have different standards on, like, for instance, Russell Brand is still under investigation, still very much investigation by the Metropolitan Police. You will not hear much about it in the British press, and certainly not with the BBC, because it's against the law to do that for an ongoing investigation. Like, you can't. It's considered like prejudicial, and it's almost taken as almost as a public service to not do that. You know what I mean? Because it's sort of like, don't muddy the waters for people. Obviously the Prince Andrew thing is kind of is different. Because again, with the Prince
how does the
Andrew
Daily Mail get away with that then, though? I mean, I feel like the Daily Mail the tabloids are different.
Yeah, they're not government owned, right? That's
well. Here's the thing about. I mean, you say that, but the Daily Mail, and those kind of tabloids, they routinely get sued all the time. They get sued by Johnny Depp. They get sued by. Now, here's the thing: you can do it. You can do it for civil cases out the wazoo. You can comment on civil cases. That's my understanding. But you can't, because this is a criminal case against Russell Brand, and I do think he's probably going to go up to 20. But he,
think so?
Yeah.
I hope so. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. The more Christian you get once you leave the arraignment, the more you did it.
Yeah.
The more you did it.
The more you find Jesus, the more he's coming for you. You know what I mean?
Right. That checks out.
Yeah. Meanwhile, and then you look at who they start to ally with, right? Like, it's like, I'm gonna start hanging out with Tucker and like a bunch of people that are gonna fight for me.
Yeah. If he were an American, Kash Patel would have been tweeted about it already, but I guess he doesn't have that option. It's interesting you mentioned the Israel-Gaza conflict. I had a question for you about that. In your most recent special, Un-American, you talk about like growing up in Ireland during the Troubles, right? 70s and 80s. And so a lot of people don't know this, but in 2021, there was potential for an election in Gaza. The Palestinians could have had an election. There was supposed to be one, right?
Yeah.
And like, it didn't happen. And there were different like official reasons that were given for that not happening. But ultimately, it was mostly sort of the consensus is that everybody was very concerned that Hamas might win that election. And of course, after like, after like 10-7, people like sort of blame the Palestinians and say, well, these are the people that the Palestinians elected and put into power, Hamas, right? Which is true, but that was in 2006, like 20 years ago, right? Yeah. So most of the people of age to vote in that election weren't in Palestine or in Gaza at the time that happened, right? The people that were able to vote in 2006, most of those people are already gone, right? So yes, they did vote for him, but they had the potential to have another election, but everyone was concerned that they would re-elect Hamas. And so it didn't happen. And I always point to Sinn Féin in Ireland as a very violent organization that became a legitimate political organization after, they evolved into that, right?
Oh, just like Hezbollah, right, Alan?
No, what I'm saying was like politics. We talk about this on the show all the time. Politics is like the last line. It's the line between violence and like a civil society is what politics is, right? And so if Hamas had, won an election, then there's a potential to bring them to the table and find political solutions to the problems that were there. Do you see that parallel at all?
Thank you for starting me off with a nice, easy question.
We talked about style guides, and then we go right into. I wanted to ask about your accent. Then, I thought that would transition us into the.
So obviously, all of this is caveated that I think you've seen that the Irish, especially in the Republic of Ireland, have a lot of affinity for the Palestinians and all the rest of it. And so, there's there appear many people talk about there's a correlation there. I don't feel qualified to talk about the Palestinian experience too much, and I think they've got or it's even to that point the Israeli experience. And look, I know it's tricky, blah blah blah. So all that caveated out, there's a couple of things just of what you said that I think are interesting. Sinn Féin and the IRA are on paper different. Growing up, the Sinn Féin were often referred to as the political wing of the IRA.
Yes.
One kind of, I don't know if Americans know this. One funny fact, because when I was growing up, the IRA were still and by extension, Sinn Féin were still a criminalized organization in the mainland. So I grew up in the north of Ireland, in County Armagh, which is in the political entity of Northern Ireland. When we were young, partly because of what was going on, we moved to London. So when you went, if you're in the United Kingdom and you were watching a member of Sinn Féin, I don't know if you know this, on television, they would show like Jerry Adams, but they would dub his voice, but it would be someone who would impersonate him. So it would just, but the exact words. It was
Why?
I don't know why. It was I think it was an old rule.
The accent they didn't want or something?
No, they just didn't want the voice of the. They just found another Northern Irish guy, and it was
because they didn't want somebody that was the violent wing of the.
Because I think it was a weird loophole, where it's like a criminal, an enemy of the crown. You couldn't hear their voice, but you could report their words.
I see.
Very
bizarre.
And
I had no idea. Wow.
But here's the thing about that too. When you some of this is stuff I only learned recently. But like sometimes your opposition will legitimize you, and I've heard there's some talk that that's sort of what Netanyahu did with Hamas. Hamas wasn't really sort of the main players, but because they were so clearly, like on paper, less reasonable than the PLO, Netanyahu and his party were like, well, no, they're running everything. By the way, and again, not to get too tangential, but my thing with Hamas is, which is it, right? Because if you're saying Palestinians have voted, it's the everyday, ordinary Palestinians' fault for voting for this violent, unreasonable organization. Is it that where the power resides with the people, or is it Hamas's this violent organization that's forcing people to let them hide out in their hospitals and use kids as human shields? Like, which is it? It can't be both. Like
Right.
if the Palestinian people are able to freely and without coercion vote in Hamas, and then at the same point completely be cowed by Hamas. And again, this, I've heard reporting that like there are everyday Palestinians that look forward to a Hamasless future because they don't think they necessarily have uh, always the best plan. I'm just sort of quoting stuff I've read. I don't know.
Sure.
Similarly, with Sinn Féin, in the 1916 uprising, which then led to the 1921 War of Independence, Sinn Féin didn't have anything to do with the first uprising in um, in 1916. It was something called I believe, the Brotherhoods of the Irish Republic, or something. The Irish Republican Brotherhood. That's really the people who did it. However, British intelligence was so bad at the time that when they round everybody up, and because there was this political party, this kind of like middling political party called Sinn Féin, the British blamed it on Sinn Féin. And so then by the time when the political prisoners got released and Sinn Féin welcomed her into their bosom, well, now Sinn Féin is the main revolutionary party in Ireland, and they've sort of like gained all this recognition for something they've never done. So my point being is that like a lot of this stuff comes from a fundamental fundamental misunderstanding and a refusal to talk to people who are on the ground. And like if you vilify people and you just say, well, you're all the same, anyone who wants freedom for your people, you automatically want the death of my people, and you don't meet people in between, and you make these broad distinctions. You give power to these groups who are like, yeah, that's us. We're the most revolutionary one. We're the whatever that line is from Life of Brian. We're the People's Popular Revolution. You like whoever wants to claim it, you'll give them that. You can give them that power. I don't know if that's answering your question, but I do think there are broad parallels there, and Ireland amongst a lot of the sort of Western European democracies has notably been most vocal about it. Maybe because they know precisely how like tricky these things are, and the fact the Irish problem is like the Irish problem, the Irish situation is so much better than it was, but it's still like. I mean, the British are finding to their cost that when you draw your border in someone else's country, and then you change your relationship with the rest of the world, well, now you have to deal with that border. You know what I mean? That's what's going on. That's why Brexit is still an issue, because if the Irish are still enjoying all the benefits of a single market with Europe, and you don't, and they're right over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, I think you did. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I just think it's my point being that's as complicated. That's the Irish revolutionary situation is complicated for me to wrap my head around, and I like sort of grew up there and grew up in that tradition. So the pontificating that goes on about what Palestinians are having to deal with and the everyday reality of their political life, I think can be a little unnuanced.
It's their situation is very specific, unique, and complex in different ways. While you might have some broad similarities, how you can't just say these two things are the exact same thing. But it is interesting to compare as you did there. I wanted to ask you more questions about other things. Now, I know. My wife's Australian. Now, you don't sound Australian, but you were born in Australia, no?
Yeah, I was, but we left when I was 11 months old.
Oh, wow.
Okay. No. What part of Australia just out
of Perth, which is
Perth. Oh, wow, way over there.
Yeah, we're way over there. It is. Yeah. I went back for the first time in 2004, and I went. And no offense to anyone there, but I wasn't sure what to expect. I'm sure the people of Perth are lovely. The people of Perth that I met are lovely. I went back to Perth where I was born, and I found it to be quite a depressing place. That's
I want to go to Australia. I'm not super excited to go to Perth. I understand. Did you go to that island and see the quokkas?
I didn't go to that island, no, but my brother did. Did you know about the quokkas, Kevin?
Yeah.
No,
you know about these?
No.
They're the
What about?
most
Tell me about the
unfortunate.
quokkas.
They're most unfortunate animal. Because in Australia they have something called Australian rules football.
Yes,
I'm a huge footy fan. I love me some footy.
It's a slightly different shape. It's somewhere halfway between a rugby ball and a soccer ball. Anyway, unfortunately for the quokka, one thing is they don't have any natural predators on the island, so they're way too friendly. And the other problem is they're almost the exact shape and size of an Australian rules football. So
okay.
the temptation.
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong? It can only good happen.
And the ease with which someone can just pick one up and boost it into the ocean.
You're not supposed to touch them. Like, God.
Especially a Western Australian. Tell a Western Australian he's not supposed to do something.
Yeah.
Oh, really? See how far that gets
you. Dustin would know.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, so I know you've been in Chicago for, a long time, right? Have you only lived in Chicago in the States, or mostly lived in Chicago in the States?
Mostly lived here in Chicago. I love Chicago. I kind of fell in love with it within like 3 weeks of living here, and I distinctly have a memory like, I could die here quite happily. But not at that moment, but
sure.
Envisioning in the future. Prior to that, I lived in Dallas, Texas for 5 years.
Oh, that's very different.
I like Chicago a little bit more than that.
It is very different. Yeah.
No. No, go ahead.
I was always going to say, I don't know if it's changed much. I always used to describe Dallas, Texas as like a movie set of a city, where it's like, I don't know if you saw, you ever seen the Richard Donner Superman 2? But in the in the finale of that, they built. I was always, as a kid, I remember being impressed. They actually built like 4 city blocks somewhere so they could film the finale. Wow. And when I first saw Chicago, I was like, "This is like they just built 4 city blocks in a city and pretended." No offense to anyone from Dallas. Again, Dallas, I'm sure you're all lovely, but you know that your downtown is fucking terrible.
Yeah, and you have to drive to get there, and everything's far apart. Yeah, and they don't have all the transits you got in Chicago. You mentioned before we were recording that you are doing a show tonight. I'd personally be remiss if I didn't get to ask you. My wife does burlesque. I know from talking to Brido about this that you have once put on what would be one of our dream shows, which would be a comedy and burlesque show. How did that go? I can imagine what the challenges are of that, because both art forms have their distinct problems with like casting and paying and getting crowds and then promotion and all of that. Was it better together, worse together? I don't know. I don't have many specific questions. What can you tell us about doing that?
I love doing it. It was weird. I went through a weird thing. So I was, I started doing comedy in Chicago in like 2006, and then it was about not even that very far into it, 2 or 3 years. There was one group, there's a great performer called Michelle Lamore, and she was running a show where they would have stand-ups in between the burlesque act. And I don't think I did this on purpose, but I think I was for some reason, I was the only comic that didn't sort of mention sex or anything sexual about the act in between. And she was like, well, that's what I want, because there was very much a temptation, and like a lot of people would like comment on it or all the rest of it, and it's just one of those things where, the burlesque acts aren't commenting on you, you know what I mean? So like, I feel like the respect should be not to do that, especially not in a derogatory way, but it's also like like it's sort of the bass and the treble, like the two things complement each other, but they're not trying to do the same job. You know what I mean? So you don't need to do that. So anyway, I started like getting booked on these shows, and then around the same people saw me getting booked on burlesque shows, and I felt very comfortable around them. And I'm an old fan of like my favorite, like a lot of my favorite comedians hark back to the vaudeville tradition.
I was hoping you'd say something like that. Yeah. Sure.
You know,
like a variety show style, right?
Yeah, and it's also like one of my favorite comedic actors was Phil Silvers, who used to be he used to play Sergeant Bilko. Phil Silvers is a guy from the 50s, and he would say became very famous on Broadway for just like being very comfortable and just having this great like projected um performance ability. And he was like he used to do what they used to call like he used to do like the Burley Q houses like in the 50s, and he used to be the compare, and he was like that really, being the guy. If people are there to see, people there for prurient reasons, or they're there to see like something sexy or whatever, and you're the quote unquote impediment to that, you know what I mean? If you're the thing that's not that, it really kind of makes you like really good with crowds. You know what I mean? It makes you really good. I really kind of learned how to host those shows and how to keep them going, all the rest of it. And I really loved doing it. And I was able to like book one for years. We had one called Wiggle Room where I would book the comics. Um, and then um, and then I would do there was something called the Kiss Kiss Cabaret. I was like
It's a good
I
name.
was I was it was great. We was a burlesque troupe, and um it had a comedian, a juggler, and a magician. Like that we would
Nice.
have for the things. It was
Yeah.
very old school vaudeville. It was we had like the host and all the rest of it, and it was also it would start at like 10:30 at night, and it was down on Lincoln, and so we would get
Dude.
drunks, dude. Like we
Yeah.
would get fall down drunk, which
Right.
again is in that thing of like it really makes you I won't say bulletproof, but it really makes you like, you've got to do your time. And, I would have like a 10-minute slot. You want to keep to your slot, but also like you've got to be the wrangler a little bit. You've got to
Yeah.
be the guy because someone goes up to the bathroom and there's pretty ladies on stage. They get back, you're there. You know what I mean? And they're like, what the hell? Who is this? But it makes you very yeah, it just sums you up, but it's also I met the best people. Like my ex girlfriend's a fantastic. Eva Lafeva is a fantastic burlesque performer and producer. She runs the Newport Theater here in Chicago. Like I know loads of burlesque dancers, male, female, non-binary, transgender burlesque performers. It's a great community, and it's like they're just you know it's great also to be around that level of production. It's great to be around performers that have different requirements to you. Like it's like drag performers, like you tell a comic, to do, you call a comic up now. That's if I call a comic now, like, can you come do an 8 o'clock show? No problem. But you call a drag performer, they're like, well, it takes me, it's gonna take me an hour to get ready.
Right. And not also, to mention what act, what costume, like
what act, and it's also I do think like drag performers are very often better for advocating for themselves. And they're better at sometimes I think they're better at creating a community for themselves sometimes too. And I think and again you can like anything you can learn from that's not your like you can always tell a comic who only hangs out with comics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean,
I
know it's just like, just, and it's just like going to, you know, doing some road shows. Like, we did a great show in New Orleans once, because burlesque and comedy. And it was one of the most madcap, like hectic.
Live band? Do you have a live band?
I think we have that's a great question. I don't think we had a live band just because there was so many. That would have been like there was so many moving parts. We had 3 comics, and I think like 8 burlesque acts, and like, it was sort of half were from Chicago, half were from New Orleans, and we had like this back room, and it was like packed. And it is sort of nuts that you think New Orleans would be. burlesque shows all the time, but like doing a well-produced one was kind of surprising, and it was great. It
Yeah.
was, but yeah, doing those kind of things are. I haven't done one in a while now, but I love doing those.
Yeah, it sounds like a blast and a good place
down
to
in
sort
Nashville, I can
craft.
recommend one to you.
Yes,
Alan. Alan's got nothing but serious questions. Well, yeah. Sorry, I'll tell you. It's Natasha Fatale. She does the Velvet Affair here on the East Side.
I know her.
Here in Nashville.
Yes. I know. Wait, is it Natasha? I'm thinking of Dahlia. Sorry, my bad.
No, that's okay. No, it's okay. I was like, wow, that's cool. Yeah.
That's the problem too. Sorry, Alan. I think I might have called you Kevin earlier. I beg your pardon.
No worries.
I wrote it down. Your thing.
I wrote it down.
The problem with Alan is you have to burlesque is everyone has at least 2 names.
Yep. I don't know any of my wife's coworkers in that. I'm like, fuck, man, I don't know. And then I can't remember any of their real names. Like none of it. Like it just doesn't.
Mind if I ask what your wife goes by?
Natasha Fatale. So her first name is Natasha. She goes by. She does like Moose and Squirrel. Like Yeah.
Gotcha. Moose and Squirrel. Okay, cool.
Natasha Fatale. Yeah.
I'm also in some ways not well equipped for the burlesque world because I'm very bad at recognizing people if they change their appearance at all. Like if someone wears a hat,
which is all they ever do.
Yeah, I remember doing a show and like after the show, there was a few women sitting at a table, and I went up to them and I said, "Thanks so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed it." And one of the women just kind of stared at me. She was like, "I was on the show. I was the third act. You said how much you liked it."
They are dramatically different outside of their costumes. I mean, come on.
That's hilarious.
Hey, I do want to respect your time. Alan has more. Alan has nothing but serious questions for you, and I want to hear you talk about some of these. So I'm going to
I'll do another serious one.
Okay, cool. Serious? Sure, serious. Have you had any run-ins with ICE in the Chicago?
Yeah, you were in Chicago,
area,
Midway Blitz.
Any ICE close calls?
I haven't seen them. I have, and I love my neighborhood. My neighborhood is very Colombian and Venezuelan. So I've heard some, whistles and some Migra stuff. At the risk of doing a bit on your podcast, but I have this bit because this is basically a true thing that happened.
I'm not going to stop you from doing a bit. Like, I would really enjoy you to do a bit.
Well, I was talking because it was, they were sort of ramping up, and they were talking about the National Guard coming and stuff like that. And I was talking to a friend of mine who happens to be Latina, and I'm still a green card holder. I'm still a permanent resident, and I was, I was like, yeah, I wasn't that worried, but people have been talking about it a lot, so I'm starting to get a bit worried. And she was like, "Yeah, I really don't think it's your Celtic pasty ass that they're looking for." And she goes, "If you just shut the fuck up and mind your own business, you'll be fine."
Yeah. Smile and nod.
And I was like, "Yeah, but if I shut the fuck up and mind my own business, they'll know I'm not American." So
right, that guy's way too quiet.
That's fair.
Papers, yeah,
that's fair. That's fair.
Any advice for traveling abroad? I'm about to go to London and France. As long as airplanes don't get canceled, I definitely need to bring my beard down. I think before I go.
They're going to give you shit about being American, and the English can get like performatively cagey. People like the Irish just want you to be able to take a joke. The Irish will give you, if you run in any Irish people and they make fun of you for it, if you
I got picked on a lot in school. I'm ready for that. Like,
if you push back, if you get offended or you deny what they're saying, you're fucked. But if you make fun of yourself and then make fun of them, you're fine. That's kind of what they want,
Okay.
Some English people will need to let you know their opinion about it, but it's it's gonna happen. It's just like you're like America's kind of the you're the most ostentatious guy on campus. You know what I mean? Like you're the you know what I mean? You're the one that everyone feels like comfortable giving shit to. But like Where are you going? London and France?
We're doing London. I'm staying in Soho because I don't like keeping my money. And then we're going to Amsterdam for 2 days, and then we're going to Paris for 4 days. 4 days London, 4 days Paris.
How are you getting to Amsterdam?
Train.
Oh, okay, cool. Only do 2 days in London.
I already booked it. Yeah, but you suggest other places? Well, we'll get out of London, sure. Yeah,
just get out of London. London's fine. London's huge. But London's kind of too big. But
there's so much. Well, I feel the same way about Paris. Paris feels overwhelming. Like I don't know. Yeah. Everything I want to see is all over in different spots. But I will go back to England at another time. My wife wants to do a lot of like vintage shopping. She wants to hit up all those markets and stuff like that. So I think going
to Camden Town.
Yeah, and what's that? The Notting Hill area. That something. Yeah,
you might be there. You might be there in time. Might be there in time for the carnival. Maybe the carnival might happen in May. Do you know about the Notting Hill Carnival?
That's May. That's where we're going. We're going in May.
Oh,
check it out.
Do you know what the Notting Hill Carnival is?
No, I'll look for it.
Notting Hill Carnival is a celebration of London's West Indian diaspora.
Ooh,
cool!
And it's a great time. Be a bit rowdy, keep your head on a swivel. But
some good food, probably.
Some great food, some awesome jerk chicken and stuff. But Notting Hill Carnival's great.
Cool. Awesome. I know how to keep my business. I used to live in Detroit. I can get through it. Yeah. Do you have time for Alan? Can we ask you just one more? Do you want to ask him? Well, do you have America? Yeah, I'll let you go.
So you taught me something I didn't know about the name of America, the country. I didn't know it was the. I wasn't aware of this, Adam. Thank you for enlightening.
Oh, that it was America Vespucci?
Yes. I had no idea.
Vespucci land.
Yeah, it's contentious, and people kind of Amerigo Vespucci was like a 15th century, early 16th century explorer. He didn't name it after himself. There was another guy, his name escapes me, but there was a Spanish cartographer. So like there was a lot of back and forth, and this one guy was, basically getting to know these explorers, and like some of the conquistadors and all this kind of thing. And the guy that they kind of thought had been the most places around there was Amerigo Vespucci. What is funny about him is if you look at some of the, according to Wikipedia and other places, but if you look at some of the scholarship around him, there is an argument that he was never in this continent, that he was never, that he never because he just wrote a couple of letters where he talked about it, but there was so much. The Spanish kept very good records in the Spanish, like a lot of Spanish wrote an awful lot about it. So he could have just. I used to have a joke where I said, ironically, America is Vespucci's Canadian girlfriend.
I've totally been there.
Right.
But it's all of that period is really is kind of, obviously it's terrible on the one hand, but the other hand it's really fascinating because it was such I think you would a good correlation would be the tech bros. Do you know what I mean? The tech bros now, all these explorers where it's like...
You're talking about like the conquistadors, like between Cortez and
the explorers,
what was that guy on?
Pizarro.
Pizarro.
Pizarro. And it's, this notion...
Dude, that's a great example. That is a perfect parallel.
Because they're like, well, we're the smart ones. It's your fault for not getting in on this. We're,
horses.
We have horses, and we're taking all the risks, but then it's like, how much risk are you taking, really? Yeah. You know what I mean? You've had all this, and you're sort of, you're getting your wealth through these consequences. You either are unseen, or you don't give a shit about. You know what I mean? and it's kind of like, but everybody should do this. And it's like, well, not everybody can do that. You know what I mean? Not everybody can do
and then
this.
at the end of the day, the way they all sniped at each other and like cut each other's throats, like man, that's a great parallel.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. So I was just listening about the whole Peruvian shit show too.
Wait, were you listening to the rest is history version of it?
Yeah,
Alan told me about it like 2 weeks ago, and I just got caught up on all. That's really crazy. Good. We were all listening to those at the same time.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
They did a good job.
I listened to their one on. I listened to their one on Samuel Johnson, and I just couldn't get into it. I'm like, I'm about to go to London. I got to listen, and I just couldn't care. I finished it, but I just don't know. I don't understand. I don't want to waste your time on that. I'm sorry. But,
no. I'm on the last episode of the Samuel Johnson one too.
Oh, nice. Nice.
It's fine. It's a good history. I'm glad I know it now more than I did. But
if anyone has any recommendations, by the way, on any history podcasts that aren't, because I listen to Hardcore History, and
of course,
and it, like, don't get me wrong, all these guys are great and they do a great job, but it is a bit, and especially the rest of the history guys, it gets a bit sort of, Eurocentric, a bit white.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they recognize their shortcomings in that, and they do a good job with the historicity of it sometimes. But I would like to hear someone, if anyone knows of any podcast where it's like someone who like just looks at it from the other side, because I think that's great, isn't it? When you're like, because they make you consider stuff.
Totally.
It's like,
I mean, that's the whole point of history, is expanding your perspective, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, Dan Snow's got a pretty good one. Dan Snow's history hits pretty good, but it does get yours.
Okay. Again, it's all like all the ones I'm thinking of. I'm like, Mike Duncan, but that's history of Rome. And
right.
Yeah.
We have a friend who does one. It's called Diogenes' Lamp. It's about the history. It's like he's doing a thing on the Greek Civil War. And I think that one counts because it's like, who knows anything about the Greek Civil War? It's just a bunch of different versions of communists, basically, that are fighting each other. And then it's pretty fun.
The Peloponnesian War, basically.
No. Like the Greek Civil War, like leading up to World War II and then directly after it. So he spent like 30 episodes just getting up to World War II, and it really starts after it. So it was good, but it's very confusing. It's like I gotta have to listen to it twice. I can see the time, Alan. I'll let you close the show, but I just want to ask you a really quick. This is sort of like a inside joke between the people that we all know these names here. Nobody else is going to get this except the three of us. Who's a bigger liar, Sean Flannery or CJ Sullivan?
That's a great question. That's such a great question.
There's no way Sean's been thrown out of that many places, right?
No, that's the one thing he doesn't lie about. That's 100% true. All that stuff is 100% true. I saw him get thrown out of a wake.
Holy shit!
I'm not lying. After 5 minutes, we took over this. It was after 5 minutes. Took over this bar. It was for someone who passed. We took over a bar, and Sean. I said, Sean. I saw Sean come in. I said hi to him. He went to the bar to get a drink, and he came back without a drink. And he goes, "Well, I have to leave because I'm being drunk."
Okay, all right, Alan, you can have the wheel. I'll let you.
If Sean tells you he wasn't thrown out of a bar, that's the lie.
That's probably the lie. Right. That's hilarious. We've had him on the show. He's a good guest. Thank you so much for coming on, man. Anything you want to plug? Anything you want to promote? I know the Un-American, your special, is out now. Anything else going on? Socials?
Please check out my special. It's rent or purchase on Amazon and all the streaming places. If this is going out on Friday, next week I'm going to be in Milwaukee at the Laughing Tap. That's reopened. That's a great space. Tickets are on sale now. Would love to see everybody there.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, that's it. Thanks so much for having me. I'm sorry it took so long for me to get on here.
Right. This has been great to have you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. It was
really fun, man.
Cool.
Talk to you again. Have a good show, man.
All the best, man.
Cheers. Bye. All right.
Okay. Oh, sorry.